Imagine this. You just packed up your life, left your friends and family behind, and moved to a new city for someone you care about. A leap of faith. You walk into the unfamiliar rhythm of a new office, trying to find your footing, only to feel like maybe you're not really welcome. That was Karen Filippelli when she moved to Scranton. You know who else was there? Jim Halper, the charming, sarcastic prankster we all love. But today, I'm going to challenge that love just a bit. I'm here to persuade you that Karen wasn't the villain in the office. She was mistreated by Jim Halper. Now, if you know the show well, you probably swooned over Jim and Pam's fairy tale arc. But for those who only know a little, I invite you to dig into empathy, to think about how our actions can affect someone who's simply trying to find belonging, love, and stability. I've watched The Office over 27 times since the 7th grade. I know these characters like old friends, and with help from communication experts and emotional insight, I want to walk you through the story of Karen and Jim. So here's the journey. First, we're going to talk about the move to Scranton. Secondly, about Karen noticing the lingering connection between Jim and Pam. And last of all, the fall of Karen and Jim's relationship. Karen and Jim first connect at the Stanford branch. Their desks are close. Karen, Jim, and Andy sparking banter and chemistry. But when the Stanford branch shuts down, Jim chooses Scranton over a promotion in Utica. Why? Because Pam's in Scranton. In a 2010 book by William R. Kopach and Brian H. Spitzberg, narcissists are described as possessing a combination of traits that oftentimes make them immediately likable. And that's Jim. Charming, funny, but oftentimes emotionally absent. Karen follows Jim to Scranton. She expresses hesitation about the move, uncertainty, fear, and isolation. And Jim, he just brushes it off. That's the first red flag. Emotional availability, nowhere to be found. Then she sees it. The old spark between Jim and Pam isn't gone. It's right there in the air. Pam calls from Scranton, and Jim, he lights up. When Pam's out sick, the whole office feels dull to him. Karen, she begins to feel like a placeholder. That's when the connection between Jim and Karen starts to crack. At Phyllis's wedding, Jim and Pam talk at the bar like old best friends. Karen watches from the sidelines, like we've all done at some point, wondering if we're imagining things or if our instincts are right. Karen had already heard about Jim's history with Pam, but now it's not history, it's a presence. Pam starts taking art classes, and Jim beams with support. Karen, she notices. That support, the kind that build people up, and it's not there for her. In a 2021 book by D. Wilkinson, we're reminded, while it's important to keep focused on the future, it is also important to allow yourself to feel connected with what you are really feeling. Karen feels the emotional disconnection, and she's not wrong. At the wedding, Jim gazes at Pam dancing with Roy. He only remembers that Karen is there when he sees her watching him. That moment, that's not romance, that's emotional negligence. That's when the connection becomes the fall. Karen considers moving closer to Jim. She's invested. She wants to build a life with him. But when she tells Jim she's thinking about renting a place nearby, he panics. He says, it's too close to living together. Instead of having a mature conversation, Jim runs to Pam. And you know what? Pam listens. She supports him, even though it clearly hurts her. Karen was committed, and Jim wasn't. He avoided hard conversations and emotional labor. Karen was doing it alone. According to Carmen Knudsen Martin, in her 2024 book, emotional connection and mutual support seldom just happen. You need socio-emotional awareness, conscious intention, and openness. And Jim, he had none of those with Karen. Pam eventually encourages Jim to be honest with Karen. That moment of empathy shows just how much deeper her connection with Jim really is. And finally, Jim tells Karen the truth. He's not over Pam. Karen wasn't irrational. She wasn't jealous. She was just trying to hold together a relationship where she was always the second choice. So let's remember, first, we talked about the move to Scranton. Secondly, how Karen notices the lingering connection. And last of all, the fall of the relationship. So overall, Karen wasn't the villain. She was someone who invested deeply in a relationship, only to realize that emotional availability isn't something you can create in someone else. She deserved honesty, and she deserved clarity. But what she got instead was a partner who never truly let go of someone else. Jim and Pam's story might be the one we remember, but it came at the cost of someone else's heart. Let this be a reminder. Just because someone isn't the main character doesn't mean that they aren't worth empathy. Sometimes the most overlooked people in a story are the ones who tried the hardest to make things work. And with that in mind, I leave you with the words of the world's greatest boss. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. Thank you.